In the far reaches of the known universe, on a planet nestled at the very edge of an uncharted solar system, lay a place of impossible beauty and peril. The land was a patchwork of iridescent rivers and fields of flora that shifted colors with the passing of the two suns, casting an otherworldly glow across everything they touched. Towering trees with translucent leaves rose high into the pastel sky, creating a canopy of shifting colors that shimmered with a faint, bioluminescent pulse. Beneath them, a dense fog rolled lazily through the undergrowth, carrying the scent of sweet, alien blossoms and something faintly metallic, as if the planet itself breathed with a consciousness. As twilight approached, a figure emerged from the shadows, barely visible against the brilliant backdrop. Clad in an intricately woven cloak of scales, reflecting the colors of the twilight like polished gemstones, they moved with quiet purpose. This was Kellen, a wanderer of worlds and a collector of secrets. Though human in appearance, Kellen's eyes held the depth of countless star systems, and their hands bore strange markings, glowing, geometric tattoos that pulsed with an inner energy, like pathways on some celestial map. Kellen paused at the edge of a cliff, looking out over the valley below. In the distance, a magnificent structure loomed, a fortress carved directly into the mountainside, its spires reaching up as if clawing toward the heavens. Known to the ancient races as the Eternal Bastion, it was a place spoken of in reverent whispers across galaxies, a place that held the knowledge and power of ages long past. Yet no one alive was known to have ventured inside and returned with their sanity or even their life. Kalen took a deep breath, the weight of their journey pressing upon them. They could feel the cold of the fortress, an insistent hum in their bones, as if the very stones of the place recognized them, beckoning them forward. But the path was fraught with danger. The forest surrounding the bastion was alive in ways that defied understanding. Shadows flickered with eyes, and the ground trembled with each step, as if the land itself was testing their worth. As Callan began the descent into the valley, the air grew thick with tension, the silence broken only by the low, rhythmic rumble of an unknown creature in the distance. In their hand, they clutched an ancient artifact, a sphere of polished crystal that radiated warmth, casting a soft light that cut through the encroaching darkness. It was said to be a key, a guide through the hidden paths of the bastion, though none knew how to use it, or if the legends held any truth. With each step, Kalen felt a strange pull, a sensation beyond thought, like a memory awakening from within. This journey was more than a quest for knowledge. It was the fulfillment of something deeply personal, something long forgotten. The valley floor was shrouded in twilight shadows, a dense ethereal mist clinging to the air. As Callan ventured deeper, the light from the crystal sphere flickered erratically, casting long, twisting shadows that seemed to dance with a life of their own. The land here was silent, save for the faint whisper of leaves and the subtle crackling of energy that seemed to pulse from beneath the soil, a low thrum that vibrated in Callan's chest, unsettling but strangely familiar. Ahead, a faint, silvery glow emerged through the mist, a path, narrow and winding, paved with stones that shimmered as if starlight had seeped into their very essence. Kalen approached cautiously, aware that every step here could trigger traps or awaken ancient guardians, rumored to protect the bastion from intruders. Legends warned that those who dared the path without the proper right or knowledge was swiftly lost to the woods, ensnared by illusions that led them in endless circles, slowly draining their spirit until they were nothing but empty shells, forgotten by time. As Callan stepped onto the path, the tattoos on their arms flared to life, the geometric symbols illuminating in a soft, rhythmic pulse that matched the hum beneath their feet. A shiver ran through them, a sensation not of fear but of recognition. It was as if the path knew them, adjusting subtly with each step, as if guiding them toward an unseen destination. The journey through the forest grew stranger with each passing moment. The mist thickened, swirling around Kalen in undulating waves, carrying faint, dissonant echoes, voices, almost whispers, speaking in tongues from ages long gone. Some spoke of the stars, others of forgotten realms, and one voice, clear and resonant, spoke directly to Callan. "Do you remember?" it asked, soft and inviting, yet chilling in its familiarity. Callan paused, gripping the sphere tighter as memories bubbled to the surface, hazy and fragmented. Fragments of a lifelong past, ancient places, faces that felt both foreign and beloved, and a familiar voice calling out to them from a time when stars were young and the cosmos was untamed. Their mind reeled, but they pushed the memories aside, focused on the task at hand. There would be time for answers once they reached the bastion, if they survived. After what felt like hours, the path opened into a clearing, and Callan came face to face with an imposing figure, draped in shadows and adorned in armor forged from dark, iridescent metal that seemed to devour the light. The figure stood tall and unmoving, eyes gleaming from within a helmet that concealed their face. They were one of the bastion's ancient guardians, the final barrier before the fortress, a sentinel that answered only to the old laws, bound to protect the secrets within at any cost. Callan felt a surge of power from the crystal sphere, as if it were responding to the guardian's presence. The sentinel raised one armored hand, fingers outstretched in a gesture both welcoming and warning. In a voice that echoed like thunder across the clearing, it spoke. "To seek the bastion is to seek the end of oneself," the guardian intoned. "Are you prepared to surrender all that you are?" For a moment, Callan hesitated, the weight of the guardian's words pressing heavily upon them. They had heard tales of those who had attempted to enter the bastion, of the trials that lay within, the memories that could be stripped away, the soul fractured and reshaped. Yet something deep within them stirred, a longing older than any fear. They knew that this was their purpose, the answer to questions they had carried across countless lifetimes and distant worlds. Callan stepped forward, meeting the guardian's gaze. "I am ready." The sentinel nodded, a gesture of sullen approval, and stepped aside. As Callan crossed into the shadow of the bastion's towering gates, the air grew cold, and the mist seemed to dissipate, as if retreating from the power held within those ancient walls. Before them, the great doors of the bastion stood open, revealing a dark, yawning corridor that stretched into the unknown. With one last look at the world behind them, Callan took a steadying breath and stepped through the threshold into the heart of the bastion, where knowledge, danger, and fate awaited them in equal measure. The silence within the bastion was absolute, thick, and oppressive, as if the very air refused to carry sound. Callan's footsteps echoed faintly down the cold, stone corridor, swallowed quickly by the darkness pressing in from all sides. The walls rose high, covered in carvings so ancient they were nearly indecipherable, telling stories of wars fought across star systems, of alliances forged and broken, of civilizations that had risen and vanished before time had meaning. Each image seemed alive with memories, the figures etched in stone seeming to watch Callan's every move with hollow, unblinking eyes. Callan lifted the crystal sphere, its gentle light casting a small, warm glow that pushed back the darkness just enough to reveal the path forward. The corridor opened up into a vast chamber, the ceiling disappearing into shadow above. Pillars lined the room, carved from the same dark, iridescent stone as the sentinel's armor, their surfaces covered in symbols that seemed to shift and writhe, as if hiding secrets too terrible to reveal. At the center of the chamber lay an enormous mosaic inlaid into the floor, depicting a celestial map unlike any Callan had seen, a spiral of stars, planets, and cosmic entities interconnected by glowing lines that pulsed faintly, following an unseen rhythm. As Callan approached, the sphere in their hand began to resonate, its light intensifying and casting intricate shadows that danced across the floor. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the chamber, and the mosaic began to shift, the celestial bodies rearranging themselves, realigning as if obeying a command. Slowly, an image began to form in the center of the mosaic, a figure, robed and hooded, with eyes that blazed like stars, a face both familiar and foreign. Callan's heart raced as they stared at the figure, a reflection of someone they once knew, or perhaps someone they once were. "Welcome, Kellen," a voice echoed from the mosaic, soft and cold as distant starlight. "Do you remember what brought you here?" The voice wrapped around Kellen's mind, tugging at memories that lay buried beneath layers of lifetimes. Images flashed before their eyes, of a distant world engulfed in war, a promise made beneath a burning sky, a vow to uncover the secrets of existence and to wield them for something greater. Each memory was like a shard of broken glass, sharp and painful, yet impossibly alluring. "I am here to reclaim what was lost," Kellen replied, their voice steady, though the words tasted of forgotten truths. The figure in the mosaic laughed, a sound both mocking and compassionate, as if they knew all too well the burden Kellen carried. "To reclaim is to destroy," it replied. "The knowledge within these walls will strip you of all that you hold dear: memory, identity, purpose. You will become one with the bastion, or you will be cast into the void." Kalen felt a chill settle over them, but they squared their shoulders, determined to press forward. "I accept the risk." As if in response, the walls of the chamber began to shift, revealing doorways that had not been there before, each one adorned with symbols that pulsed with a strange, haunting energy. The voice from the mosaic continued, a tone of finality in its words. "Choose a door, Kalen. Each leads to a path of trials. You must face them alone, with only the truth in your heart as your guide. Succeed, and you may touch the heart of the bastion. Fail, and you will join those who wandered before you, shadows lost in the corridors of eternity." The doors loomed before Kellen, each one seeming to pulse in time with the beat of their heart. The first door was marked by a symbol resembling an eye, open and all-seeing, surrounded by flame, promising a trial of vision, perhaps of clarity and revelation. The second door bore a symbol of a serpent coiled around a sphere, its mouth open as if poised to strike, invoking thoughts of wisdom hidden within danger, knowledge that could wound as easily as it could enlighten. The third door was marked with a simple, handprint-like shape that pulsed with a subtle, warm light, as if beckoning with a sense of familiarity, though something about it felt hauntingly final. Kalen reached for the crystal sphere, feeling its warmth seep into their skin, a reminder of why they had come so far. With a deep breath, they approached the second door, feeling the pull of ancient knowledge and the thrill of danger calling to them. As they stepped through the doorway, a wave of dizziness washed over them, and the world shifted around them, blurring and twisting until they found themselves standing in a circular room, its walls covered in mirrors that reflected endless versions of themselves. Each reflection was slightly different, some older, some younger, some scarred, others bearing expressions of sorrow, anger, or joy. They were fragments of lives they had lived, faces they had worn and forgotten, each one staring back with a different story in their eyes. As Kylan gazed at the myriad reflections, a voice, soft, whispering, filled the room. "To know the truth, you must confront the faces you have worn and the lies you have abandoned. Each holds a piece of what you seek, but beware, for not all will wish to let go." One by one, the reflections began to step forward, merging from the mirrors into solid, living beings that surrounded Kellen, their faces flickering with emotion. Each one held a piece of the story Kellen had forgotten, a part of their soul they had left behind. And Kellen knew that to progress, they would have to face them all, to accept their stories, to confront the choices that had shaped them, and to claim the fragments of themselves that lay hidden within these spectral forms. With a stealing breath, Kalen prepared to confront the faces of their past, each step deeper into the labyrinth of memory, drawing them closer to the heart of the bastion, and to the truth that waited, patiently, in the shadows. Kalen stood amidst the spectral versions of themselves, each figure a haunting echo of the past, the lives they had lived, and the choices they had made. Their reflections surrounded them in a perfect circle, forming a silent audience of memories, each bearing a distinct expression, some fierce, others sorrowful, a few with eyes downcast, as if burdened by guilt. The air was thick with tension, a solemn stillness punctuated only by the quiet hum of the crystal sphere in Kellen's hand, its light dimming as if in reverence to the weight of this confrontation. The first reflection stepped forward, a younger version of Kaelin, with bright, determined eyes that held a spark of idealism, untarnished by loss or regret. They wore simple clothes from a time and place Kaelin could barely recall, yet the sight of this younger self ignited a familiar ache within them. The reflection's voice was clear and unwavering, yet laced with a tinge of sorrow. "Do you remember the vow you took beneath the stars of Valleon?" they asked, the question lingering in the air like a challenge. Vague images surfaced in Kaelin's mind. An ancient world, its skies filled with stars like a sea of fireflies, the air thick with the scent of rain and earth. On that world, Kaelin had once made a promise, a commitment to use their knowledge to protect, to create, to inspire. But the years had worn down that resolve, and their path had diverged in ways both subtle and grand. "I remember," Kaelin replied, their voice soft but resolute. "I remember the promise, though the path has twisted." The younger self seemed to sigh, their expressions softening, as if seeing both the person they had been and the person Kaelin had become. Without another word, they faded back into the circle, their essence absorbed into the crystal sphere, which pulsed with renewed light. Kaelin felt a fragment of energy return to them, a reminder of the idealism they had once held and the vow that had begun their journey. Another reflection stepped forward, this one older, scarred, and bearing a heavy gaze that spoke of battles fought and hard choices made. This Kaelin wore the remnants of armor, a testament to a life of conflict and sacrifice, and their eyes bore the weight of many losses. They met Kaelin's gaze with an intensity that sent a chill through the air. "Do you remember the price you paid on the sands of Dorshire?" they demanded, their voice filled with both accusation and understanding. The memory struck Kaelin like a wave, the sand red as rust, stained by blood both theirs and others. Dorshire had been a turning point, a place where Kaelin had faced a choice between loyalty to their ideals and survival in a hostile universe. They had sacrificed companions, dreams, and a piece of their soul on those burning sands, leaving behind a trail of ghosts that haunted them still. "I remember," Kaelin whispered, feeling the weight of that choice settle into their bones, "and I carry those memories with me even now." The scarred reflection nodded sullenly, stepping back and dissolving into the crystal, their essence merging with Kaelin, who felt the strength of their past self flow into them, a reminder of the resilience that had kept them alive through countless battles. The crystal grew brighter, its light tinged with a faint crimson glow. The third reflection emerged, different from the others, a figure cloaked in shadows, their face obscured, their presence cold and distant. This version of Kaelin was more haunting than any other, a reminder of the parts of themselves they had chosen to forget. The figure's voice was barely a whisper, carrying the weight of secrets and regrets. "Do you remember the paths you forsook, the lives you left behind?" they asked, their voice carrying a strange mixture of longing and remorse. Kaelin felt a pang of guilt, memories surfacing of the lives they had touched and abandoned, the people they had left behind in their relentless pursuit of knowledge and power. There were loves lost, friendships broken, bonds severed by their own hand in pursuit of something greater. It was these memories that hurt the most, the faces of those who had trusted them, who had given pieces of their hearts, only to be left in the shadow of Kaelin's journey. "I remember them all," Kaelin replied, their voice heavy with remorse. "Every choice, every goodbye." The shadowed reflection nodded, acknowledging Kaelin's honesty, and vanished into the crystal. This time, the light dimmed, as if absorbing the pain and loss Kaelin had experienced, growing softer, more muted. Yet within that dim light was a deeper strength, a reminder that even in loss there was wisdom. One by one, the remaining reflections stepped forward, each carrying a piece of Kaelin's journey, each representing a lesson learned, a part of their soul reclaimed. Some were moments of triumph, others of defeat, all of them pieces of a larger story that had shaped them into the person they were now. With each encounter, Kaelin felt themselves becoming more whole, more aware of the complexity of their journey and the tapestry of choices that had brought them here. When the final reflection stepped back, leaving only Kaelin in the circle of mirrors, the room fell into a profound silence. The crystal sphere in Kellen's hand glowed with a soft, radiant light, no longer pulsing erratically, but steady and calm, as if resonating in harmony with the beating of their heart. As they gazed into the mirrors, Kaelin saw only themselves now, a singular being, complete and unified, bearing the weight of their past and the clarity of their purpose. The voice from before returned, softer now, almost reverent. "You have reclaimed the pieces of your soul, Kaelin. You've effaced the choices that shaped you and the lives you left behind. You may now proceed, though the journey only grows darker from here. Are you prepared?" Kaelin took a deep breath, feeling a new strength within them, a sense of resolve that had eluded them for so long. They nodded, and as they did, the mirrors around them began to dissolve, the room fading into shadow, replaced by a narrow passage that led deeper into the bastion. With the crystal sphere illuminating the path, Kaelin stepped forward, their footsteps echoing through the dark corridor. They were ready to face whatever lay at the heart of the bastion, ready to discover the truth they had sought for so long, even if it meant unraveling the very essence of who they were. And so Kaelin descended, venturing further into the unknown, their mind clear and their soul whole, as they moved toward the secrets waiting in the depths of the bastion. The corridor twisted and turned, winding deeper into the bowels of the bastion, where light was a rare and sacred thing. Kaelin's footsteps echoed softly, the sound swallowed quickly by the dense stone walls. The air grew colder, filled with the scent of age-old dust and a metallic tang that hinted at energies long forgotten by the living. The crystal sphere's glow, once soft and gentle, began to intensify, casting sharp shadows along the narrow walls as if warning Kaelin of what lay ahead. At the end of the corridor, Kaelin emerged into a vast, cathedral-like chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows far above. Columns rose on either side, disappearing into darkness, and the floor was covered in a thin layer of frost that cracked softly beneath their feet. The air hummed with a low, resonant vibration, like the deep note of a cosmic choir, a sound that seemed to reverberate within Kaelin's bones, as if the bastion itself were alive, aware of their presence. At the heart of the chamber stood an altar, carved from a black stone that seemed to devour light. Upon it lay a relic, a disc inscribed with intricate celestial symbols, glowing faintly as if it held the pulse of the universe. The sight of the relic stirred something in Kaelin, a sensation of familiarity mixed with awe, as if they had seen it once in a dream, or perhaps in a life now lost to the stars. Approaching cautiously, Kaelin felt a sudden weight settle over them, a powerful presence pressing down, ancient and unyielding. Shadows pooled in the corners of the room, shifting and coalescing until they formed a figure cloaked in darkness, a spectral being whose face was obscured beneath a hood. Only the faint glow of eyes, like distant stars, hinted at the being's form. "You have come far, Kaelin," the figure's voice resonated through the chamber, as deep and cold as the vastness of space. "But the heart of the bastion is not easily won. To proceed, you must surrender the final veil that shields your soul, the truth you guard even from yourself." Kaelin's breath caught. They had already faced the memories of their past, the choices that had shaped them, and the lives they had left behind. What more could this being want? What secrets could possibly remain hidden after everything they had confronted? The figure raised a hand, and the room began to shift, the shadows peeling away to reveal a new scene, a memory that Kaelin had buried long ago, one they had never dared to revisit. They were suddenly standing on the bridge of a starship, the familiar hum of its engines vibrating beneath their feet. Before them, through the glass viewport, stretched an endless sea of stars, a galaxy on the brink of collapse. Kaelin's younger self stood at the console, hands shaking as they prepared to issue a command. Around them were the crew, friends, allies, people they had fought beside through countless battles. Their faces were tense, eyes filled with fear and desperation. They were facing an impossible choice: to save the people they loved, or to ensure the survival of knowledge and power that could shape the future of worlds. It was a decision that demanded a sacrifice, and Kellen knew, even before the memory had fully unfolded, what choice they had made. The crystal sphere grew cold in Kellen's hand as the memory played out. They had chosen knowledge, a power they believed could one day redeem them, a future that would honor their sacrifice. And in doing so, they had sealed the fate of those who had trusted them. They had watched, helpless, as their friends perished in the cold void, their faces fading from memory over the years like stars snuffed out one by one. The weight of this choice, this final truth, pressed down on Kellen, heavier than any burden they had carried. Tears pricked at their eyes as they stared at the scene, forced to confront the deepest wound they had buried, their betrayal of those who had believed in them. They had told themselves it was necessary, that the knowledge they had preserved was worth the lives lost. But in this moment, all the justifications faded, leaving only raw, unfiltered sorrow. The spectral figure's voice interrupted their thoughts, softer now, almost compassionate. This is the truth you feared, the one you wrapped in layers of ambition and purpose. To touch the heart of the Bastion, you must accept the full weight of what you have done and let go of all illusions. Kellen fell to their knees, clutching the crystal sphere, its light flickering weakly, mirroring the turmoil within them. For a long moment, they sat in silence, feeling the truth settle over them like a shroud. They had sacrificed everything they held dear for the sake of a future they could no longer see clearly, and in doing so, they had lost the parts of themselves that had once been whole, that had once loved. Slowly, Kellen rose to their feet, their hand tightening around the sphere. They understood now. The Bastion had demanded not only their strength but their honesty, a reckoning with the darkest corners of their soul. With a final breath, they whispered, "I accept." The chamber shuddered, and the spectral figure nodded, fading back into the shadows. The disc on the altar began to glow brighter, pulsing with a vibrant energy that filled the room with warmth and light. As Kellen approached, they felt the presence of those they had lost, their friends, their companions, the family they had chosen and forsaken. The warmth of their memory, mingled with the ache of loss, filled Kellen's heart, a bittersweet balm that mended the cracks left by time and guilt. Kellen reached out, touching the disc, feeling its energy course through them, a torrent of knowledge and power, of love and loss, of all the lives they had touched and been touched by in return. In that moment, they understood that the heart of the Bastion was not a prize to be won, but a truth to be accepted, a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge was nothing without the wisdom to wield it with compassion. As the energy settled within them, Kellen felt a profound peace, a clarity they had not known in lifetimes. They were whole, not because they had conquered the Bastion, but because they had found the courage to face themselves, to accept the journey in all its messy, painful beauty. The chamber faded around them, and Kellen found themselves back at the entrance of the Bastion, standing in the light of dawn as if no time had passed. The journey was complete, but the memory of it remained, etched into their soul as deeply as any scar. They took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the crystal sphere in their hand, now a simple object, a reminder of the truth they had reclaimed. With one last look at the Bastion, Kellen turned and walked into the dawn, their heart finally at peace, ready to begin a new journey, not driven by ambition or regret, but by the quiet, enduring strength of a soul made whole. The morning air was crisp and heavy with the scent of dew-laden grass as Kellen emerged from the Bastion's shadow, a world reborn bathed in the first light of dawn. The stars that had once lit their path faded quietly into the blue glow of morning, leaving a sky that felt open and endless. The landscape around them was transformed, or perhaps it was Kellen who had changed, seeing the world anew through eyes unclouded by ambition, regret, or fear. They paused at the threshold, glancing back at the towering structure of the Bastion, its dark, unyielding walls watching in solemn silence. The journey within had stripped away illusions and defenses, leaving them with a clarity they had never known. They no longer felt the need to conquer, to prove their worth or uncover secrets hidden from the rest of existence. The knowledge they had gained was no longer an object of power, but a quiet truth, a part of them, woven into the very fabric of who they were. As they descended the rocky slope back into the valley, Kaelin became aware of the land stirring around them. The trees rustled with a gentle breeze that carried the sound of water trickling through hidden streams, the world itself seeming to breathe in rhythm with their steps. Creatures watched them from the undergrowth, animals they hadn't noticed before, their eyes reflecting curiosity rather than fear, as if they sensed the transformation within Kaelin. At the edge of the valley, Kaelin stopped by an ancient tree, its trunk twisted and gnarled with age. They placed a hand on its bark, feeling the slow, steady pulse of life within, the tree's roots winding deep into the soil. Closing their eyes, Kaelin allowed their mind to wander, touching on fragments of the journey they had left behind, the lives they had encountered, the truths they had unearthed. Each memory felt like a quiet whisper, a song resonating in the depths of their soul. They felt a strange pull then, a sensation they hadn't expected, a calling from somewhere beyond the valley, faint but persistent, like a distant melody drifting on the wind. It was not a demand, nor a summons, but an invitation. Kaelin understood immediately. The journey was not over. The bastion had granted them clarity, a sense of unity with their past selves. But there were others in need of this understanding, others who wandered with hearts burdened by regret, blinded by ambition, or fractured by choices that haunted them. As Kaelin walked toward the distant hills, the crystal sphere grew warm in their hand, its light pulsing softly as if acknowledging their decision. They felt an overwhelming sense of purpose, not the relentless drive that had fueled them before, but a gentle, compassionate resolve. Their path was no longer a solitary one. They had been transformed, and it was time to share that transformation, to guide others who sought answers or solace, to help them understand that true power was found not in conquest, but in acceptance. The landscape stretched before them, vast and untouched, every shadow and distant hill a mystery waiting to unfold. But this time, Kaelin did not fear the unknown. They walked with the calm assurance of someone who had faced the darkness within themselves and emerged whole. The scars they bore, the memories they carried, these were no longer burdens but gifts, pieces of wisdom to be shared with those who would cross their path. As they journeyed onward, Kaelin began to encounter other travelers, souls wandering the quiet edges of the known worlds, each one carrying their own burdens, each with stories etched into their eyes. Some of them were wary, others curious, drawn to Kaelin without knowing why. Kaelin listened to each one, offering words of comfort or understanding, sometimes nothing more than a silent presence, a reminder that they were not alone. They became a guide, not through grand teachings or displays of power, but through the simple, honest act of being, a steady flame in the dark. Over time, stories of Kaelin spread, carried by the winds and whispered across galaxies. They became a figure spoken of in myths and songs, the wanderer who had faced the bastion and returned not with treasures, but with truths, a sage whose wisdom had the power to mend even the most broken of hearts. Pilgrims traveled from distant worlds to seek them out, drawn by tales of healing and self-discovery, of a journey not to conquer but to understand. But Kaelin never lingered in one place for long. They moved like the wind, following a path known only to them, finding purpose in the spaces between worlds, in the lives they touched and the stories they helped rewrite. The crystal sphere remained a companion, a beacon that pulsed with warmth and light whenever Kaelin's resolve wavered, reminding them of the bastion, of the truth they had uncovered within themselves. One evening, Kaelin found themselves on the edge of a quiet lake, the sky above a deep tapestry of stars reflected perfectly on the water's surface. Sitting by the shore, they gazed up at the constellations, each one a memory, a reminder of the journey they had undertaken. In that quiet moment, Kaelin felt a presence, an echo from the bastion, a faint but unmistakable sensation of the sentinel who had guarded its gates. "You have become the heart of the bastion," a familiar voice whispered, carried on the breeze. "Its knowledge flows through you, its wisdom tempered by your journey. You are its legacy, Kaelin, and the light you carry will outlast even the stars. Tears filled Kaelin's eyes, not from sorrow, but from an overwhelming sense of peace, of fulfillment. They understood, finally, that the Bastion was not just a place. It was a state of being, a part of them, and a part of every soul who sought to understand the mysteries of existence. They had become the living embodiment of the Bastion's heart, a vessel of wisdom and compassion, a reminder that the truest journeys are the ones taken within. As the stars shone above and the lake reflected their light, Kaelin closed their eyes, feeling the presence of those who had come before, those who would follow, all bound by the same desire to understand, to become whole. And in that moment, they felt truly free, their journey no longer a destination, but an endless path of discovery, a dance with the cosmos that would continue long after the stars had faded from the sky. And so, with a heart as boundless as the universe itself, Kaelin rose, took a final look at the mirrored heavens, and stepped once more into the unknown, carrying the light of the Bastion within, a guide for all who wandered in search of the truth.